the most illogical statement I ever heard. Meanwhile, the same person said, 4 more for Nana. And so, if you follow that logic, it means that no president deserves a second term. That's what the person is saying. So even your 8 years you are talking about, it means when you win and you want re-election, you are not going to be accountable. And so let's, put that illogical thinking aside and look forward. The first was about the prosecution of the laptop coup in regards to our colleague Bakavoma. And I do think that I don't want to be in contempt of law, but I can say on authority that I don't think that that prosecution was necessary. And so let me just keep it like that so that I don't get cited for contempt. I think that prosecution was unnecessary, and it was an overreaction by the government. With regards to what is happening in Kenya, I don't think that we have to wait for the backlash of what the youth did in Kenya for us to do the things that we have to do. And that's why I started talking. I said, look, the time has come for us to act, and that it can't be business as usual. The Kenyan youth have sent a signal to the whole of Africa that they will push back if the leaders don't do the right thing. And so definitely I'm signaling that it will not be business as usual in our new administration. We'll cut out waste, we'll cut out opulence, we'll bring a code of conduct for public sector, public appointees, especially political appointees, in how they behave in terms of their modesty, in terms of their humility. Your appointment to that office is an opportunity to serve. It's not an opportunity to lord it over the people. And so our political appointees and public office holders must change their attitudes. And so that is what we're going to insist on, that people that we appoint are modest people, they are humble, they will open up to the people, and they'll do the things that will make the lives of our young people better. And so we're going to hold them to a higher criteria of service than people have been held to in the past. And that's why I say, if you agree to serve, you must serve and not have other side businesses and do other things. You must not go and buy state property. Anybody serving in my government will not be allowed to buy a state asset. Nobody serving in my government will buy a state asset. Vehicles or cars or buildings or land or anything, nobody serving in our government will be allowed to buy a state asset. With regards to the deaths, I have the same opinion as you. 8 of our citizens died for no reason, and our president has not even extended any recognition of what had happened. And no attempt has been made to investigate. I have said in several places that we'll investigate what happened and find out those culpable for those deaths. And aside from that, we'll compensate the families adequately on the loss of their loved ones. And it's not only the deaths during the election. You mentioned there are shaman brutalities. It shouldn't have happened. I mean, a soldier was killed, very unfortunate, by a group of armed robbers. And because of that, a whole community was subject to brutalization. I don't think things like that, should happen in the 21st century. And so I put out a statement when it happened, condoling with the victims, and also asking the military to exercise patience. I believe that the military work in a very difficult environment. They are responsible for our safety and security. But at the same time, they should recognize that the money the taxpayers pay that put them in that uniform and give them those instruments are to protect the citizens and are not supposed to be used to brutalize the citizens. And so we need to see how we deal with that. Ayawaso West Wogon. A whole commission of inquiry was set up. Government has with impunity refused to implement the recommendations of the committee. Only recently I visited one of them. He was a footballer. He is unable to go back to work or do anything because of the infirmity in his leg. And so I went and presented a freezer, a flat screen TV, and 5,000 cedis to him in order to help him keep going. And I believe that people like that should be adequately compensated so that they can live their lives again. I am a Christian and I belong to the Assemblies of God Church. Ordinarily, building a house of God is something that we all do. I contributed monies in my local Assemblies of God branch to build our church. And it's created an environment for us to praise and worship our God. But I don't condone stealing in the name of God. And that is what has happened in the case of this National Cathedral. It is instructive that members of the Board of Trustees, some of the members of the Board of Trustees, have resigned, and they have called for a forensic audit of the National Cathedral. I'm not saying it. Members on the board believe that fraud has been perpetrated against the people of Ghana, and they are calling for a forensic audit. At the time this National Cathedral came up, it was somebody's personal commitment to God. And we are sure that public funds were not going to be used for the National Cathedral. Unfortunately, we hear that 300 and something million has gone into it. Where did those payments go? Were they justified? Who did they go to? These are all things that we have to unravel. And I think that that is the first thing we do before we even decide what to do with that huge pit. And so first, let's investigate and do a forensic audit. And if people have, illegally and unlawfully taking the monies of the people of Ghana, they must be made to refund those monies. And so that's the first thing I'll do with regards to the cathedral. Yeah, Titi Medase. Say question I will say no idea me ya no ewo baby bebre. Me so make say adia ye say aban eba na ehya ase ene mpuntunjuma ewo baby bebre e bia market and school and hospital. We be say aban foforo ba na ehye say omu dwen say omu disika hyimu a credit no ebeko aban dada ne nchen. Nti no mo twegu na omo ankasa omo akɔhye omo de ase. Na meka se nyame ye adom ne eba sika ye wo ye de behwe saa mpuntunjuma ne bebre aka a ekyɛ se ye twegu na ye de ye sika hyemu ne etimi ewie saa ndwuma no asa ne ya hye ase ene foforo. Nti meka se district bia ye be inventory of all projects a ekyɛ se aban aba aban ekɔ ni na omogya egu ho na every year budget a yebe bia yebe yi sika egu nchen a ekyɛ se ye de be wie san dwuma no nti 4 years a mewa ban mu a meye president no afi bia ye de sika beto ho se ne be ya every district ndwuma a ɛwɔ ho a ekyɛ se ye gya aton room no ye de sika no ebeto aso na ye wie asane a hye ase ne foforo. Because we call baby classroom block yenwie. We be hunad assembly aka say oh ye sha ase ne classroom block foforo. Anka sika ye won no yemfa nwie ne yenwie no ansa ne sha ase ene foforo. Enti ano me ne o ye adwen say abandoned projects e was here hwe na ye. Na o kaka ho ene taxes and levies. Ampa o hwe ade ba ko a ama Ghana Kane na yese ye favorite destination for investment. And they say na your taxes ne levies ewo form kakra. And so I think so there say senya aban ama your economy no ahwe ase no. IMF program a omuko mu no. IMF a catch say yeto a yeje anase revenue a ye nya no I was see a pager, it could do 24%. Can it near 15%? Taxes are almost 2 years, a pager yeah about 17 point something percent. And so almost by 2028, I will see it drew 24%. In the chest, Omunya, sa taxes now de gue so no, and young Andrew Pempenswa, Yabeka say, Omoye. Entin now person mode VAT to electricity. So that was one of the reasons. And so, yes, at you say more, Ekotia, and by now, electricity bill be a VAT at that so. Young Kwani or mine are a woo see hangina, a chess yare, Abba Eko, Yeji eto, Efasa yare no, COVID levy. COVID Abba Eko, China baby, COVID a frimpo, yen Geomo COVID levy. And so Ghana Kwani COVID levy. And it's an your man who share emissions tax, and it's our taxes nina, a year toa, a buying edit 2 years, so as a result of IMF agreement on my year. And you know, because oh, me ba, mecha a tonumu. Who are buying muses here, so bet me a tonuma, chassis, nature, a namato a tonumba from near whom. Men can say, oh, Montoma mi answer, me ba, sa a toy may year for home. Enti Niaokano no kreno. One of the things I ben is say you best streamline VAT. Because Mentias here say obeko a jum na enkrofom yensa eton ade. Bakon eye VAT 3%. Bakon ne VAT e was soro kakra. Bakon so VAT here 21%. Meanwhile, omunyina the same customers. And he said, me ba ho now be me VAT 21%, me ko ni obeje me 3% no. And he also a streamlining so that traders will pay the same rate in terms of value added tax. I think so ko port wa send ya kind no Toyota Vitz. Edano mini guta fo share me fa an example of car bia obia import and na me kind levies and taxes also. About 23 levies and taxes. So, what has a duty? And it's an your manner. I know you will harmonize ECOWAS tariffs. Into duty, no one to me. But the problem is the levies and port charges. Are illegal. And so, I see about we rationalize all those levies. Ye say we hon ye be ye free ho. Send a be from Kakra. But the major thing I was saying, they say. We have to stabilize the currency because it will affect it. One of the reasons Ankrofo and they said this week we be na currency no. Yes, Bank of Ghana say currency no exchange rate near say. It is at one near Bejo port. The next week we be na CD a free ebia 14 above 15. It is at one now obetia in CDs no. Na say a cost. Into one of the priorities of government will be to stabilize the currency and stabilize the economy. Senebeya obia asombejono. Enti emse emoya memanono. Universities, what are we going to do about tertiary educational institutions? There are many challenges there. One of them is that students don't have enough hostels to live. And so they have to go for private hostels. And the private hostels are expensive. And so one of our objectives in our manifesto will be to accelerate the building of hostels. And we're going to do that with private sector. The universities have lands. And so we can engage the private sector to build hostels. And we and them will agree on the fees that should be charged in the hostels. The government alone cannot build all the hostels to accommodate the students. But there are Ghanaians who have investable funds that they can use to provide hostels. If you go to the universities today, what they'll take you through in terms of eligibility to build a hostel, they want to see your bank balance, they want to see this, they want to see, so many things. It makes it difficult for the private sector to come in. But if we apportion some land in every university and say people who want to invest in hostels should apply, we'll go through the criteria fairly and transparently and allocate the lands for them to build so that our students can get accommodation. That will be one way of doing it. Aside from that, we'll uncap the GET fund. This government has capped the GET fund. And so any money that exceeds a certain statutory threshold goes into the consolidated fund. And so the GET fund is not receiving enough money. Apart from that, 60% of the GET fund has been collateralized with the Dachi bond. And so only 40% of a capped GET fund is available to continue projects. And so we'll uncap it and we'll liquefy the GET fund so that it's able to continue to do the work it's doing. To ease the pressure on students, we will enhance the student loan scheme. Recently, I heard the administrator of the student loan scheme say there's a 50 million Ghana cedis funding gap. And so they are not able to accommodate all the students in terms of the loans that they give. And so government must enhance the loan scheme so that the quantum is enough to be able to take the students through, but is also able to cover as many students who need that support as possible. And so those are some of the things we'll do for tertiary education. TOR is a shame and a disgrace to our country. This was a flagship project by President Nkrumah, and it was one of the first refineries to be built in Africa. Today, TOR is a pale shadow of itself. When I came, I did my best. I restarted TOR. They started refining products. Indeed, before I left office, our first shipment of crude from our own oil field was given to TOR to refine. And then we left office. The new administration came. That shipload of oil sat in the tanks for years. Eventually, they discounted it and sold it out. And TOR hasn't worked since then till now. All TOR is surviving on is the revenue it gets from the single buoy mooring facility that offloads petroleum products and their storage tanks. That's all. Aside from that, the refinery has not been working for almost more than 6 years of this government's administration. And so when I say we'll come and we'll revamp TOR, it's because it is an important industry for the growth of Tema. It's an important industry for the prosperity of Tema. And there are a lot of young people who can find jobs with a refinery that is working. And so we'll strategically work with any strategic partners who are available to revamp the refinery and even expand it. TOR has extra land to accommodate even another refinery. And so if we have people who are ready to invest with us, we would let them come on board. We will have a stake. They also will have a stake. And they'll not only revamp TOR, but if they can even build an additional refinery to increase the capacity of TOR, it will be a good thing. It will provide employment, and it will also make the cost of our petroleum products more predictable. Because if we are refining the crude oil ourselves, we can lower the cost of petroleum products. But if we are importing from outside, we must accept whatever price we get on the international market. Fiber cuts. Yes, optic fiber got cut and the internet was disrupted. We have several submarine cables that provide service to Ghana. We don't know exactly what happened, but there was an undersea cut that affected the cables. And so they've been repaired now, and so we can have connectivity. But luckily, technology is always progressing. And so the cost of satellite internet has come down. And due to Elon Musk and his Starlink and other such producers, you can buy a Starlink dish and get internet connectivity. And so it gives us a quantum leap to be able to send internet connectivity to places that we didn't dream of before. And so in our schools, in our government offices and other places, we can go and put these satellite dishes there and give them instant connectivity. And the rates are quite affordable. And so many private people have even started using satellite internet. And so the technology gives us more possibilities to create universal access in our country. We even have domestic fiber cuts. When they're doing road construction, they cut the fiber links. And so we also must be careful how we protect the fiber that we have. Let's see what else. I think we are done. Achimota Forest.
Achimota Forest and Airbus.
Yeah, Achimota Forest.
Yes, sir.
I mean, A lot of allegations were thrown against me. I've been out of office for 7 years and 7 months. You think that if this government had anything they could stand on with how they hate my persona, they would not have prosecuted me for it. Airbus, the president referred it to the OSP, and the OSP is supposed to investigate it. You don't expect me to investigate myself. And so, if they had something to stand on, I'll not be standing here today. The same thing, hotel in Dubai. I challenged them. I said, let's go and find that hotel. I myself am in need of money. We'll find it, we'll sell it. You give me my small share, and government can take the rest. Till today, $10 million for diaries. President Akufo-Addo himself said it, that my government has spent $10 million to import diaries. They've been in office for 7.7 years. Where is the $10 million for diaries? And so I've challenged the MPP and the mudslinging and the lies they've told about me at every juncture to come up with proof of the allegations and prosecute me. I am an adherent of accountability. And I've said anybody who serves in public office should be prepared to be accountable. And that accountability must start with myself. And if they have any allegations that they could prove, they would have done so by now. It's just a political gimmick. When elections are coming, then they start raising all kinds of issues and all that kind of thing. But I remain focused. My commitment is to fight corruption. And if I come into office, I'll hold their administration to the high standard of accountability. And those who serve in my administration would also be measured by the same yardstick. Yes, thank you. And then Achimota Forest and looting of state lands and others. I've said that no person who accepts to serve in my administration will be allowed to buy any state assets. When you finish serving and you go and you want to do whatever, it's your palaver. But as long as you're an appointee under my administration, buildings, lands, vehicles that belong to the state, you are not going to be allowed to buy or invest in any state asset. Thank you.